What if I just don't do an intro? Alright, starting with A, we've got the Aarakocra. These are bird people with a funny name, and that's pretty much all there is to it, so I don't know, 11. Next are Aboleths. Relatively powerful sea creature with Cthulhu-y aspects, but they don't fit well into a lot of games without being the main focus of something. You don't just throw an Aboleth into the middle of a dungeon, you know? And also, these are one of the handful of D&D monsters that are some ancient being that was in charge of the universe. And like, how many ancient beings can possibly be in charge of the universe? How old is your D&D setting, even? That's something to consider. Plus, here's the thing, right? Just look at this guy. He's an idiot. Giving them a 7. Alright, the next section is the angel section. First type of angel is this handsome fella, Deva. They're basically cosmic mailmen that, for some reason, have 4d8 radiant damage if they smack you with a stick. Not the most interesting thing in the game. Also, if you need a stat block for an angel, either your players have summoned an angel, which means something really bad is going on in your campaign, or your players are fighting an angel, in which case something really bad is going on in your campaign. 9 for Devas. Planetars are the next type of angel. They're green. I don't know why they're green. These are the ones that are specifically supposed to be a weapon. They go beat stuff up because a deity said to. They have healing powers though, because, I don't know, because they're angels. Doesn't really make sense. There's nothing wrong with them, exactly, so I'd say a 10. And then we've got Solars, which are, apparently there's only 24 of them. I don't know why that's the case. I also don't know what the point of them is, exactly. They're more powerful than the thing that's specifically designed to go beat stuff up. So there's that. This is kind of neat. They can send their sword away from themselves to fight on its own, and then bring it back. So that's fun. Probably a 12 there. Like, at least it's interesting. Next section is animated objects. The first object we've animated is this suit of armor. It's neat, it works. The armor class being 18 of natural armor makes perfect sense because 18 is the armor class that plate armor gives you, and this just is plate armor, so fair enough. One of the downfalls of animated objects is that if you just cast something anti-magical, they die. I mean, they don't literally die, but knocking something unconscious in combat is taking them out of combat. But yeah, suit of armor that can punch you in the face. 12. Flying sword. It's alright. It's not really threatening in the way that you would expect a flying sword to be. I mean, it only has +3 to hit. That means it's probably less accurate at striking people than a typical swordsman, which is a little disconcerting because there's no actual wielder for you to look at in order to counterplay. Like, swordplay doesn't function properly when you're fighting just a sword. It seems like it should be a little more... It should be easier to hit people with a sword if you don't exist than if they can see you, so. Flying sword, makes sense that this would be one of the animated objects, but could have been done a little better. Maybe an 11. 11 seems like a good score. Rug of Smothering. This is just a living carpet, and it will attack you, even though it's, you know, a carpet. 15. Okay, Ankheg. Ankheg? Ankheg? There's no pronunciation guides in D&D, except for the ones that do exist, which I haven't read. Anyway, this is a big bug dude. I don't think I've ever used an Ankheg for anything. Ever. I've been playing this game for like 3 years, and I've been running this game for half that time, and I've never even looked at this stat block. Why does this armor class go down while it's prone? You already get advantage. Is a big bug. 10. Azer? Azer. I don't know. These are dwarfs that are made of fire or something. Again, this is one of the things that I've literally never looked at for any reason. It's just kind of stupid looking. 7. Banshee. Now, Banshees are an undead. They're a type of ghost, effectively. I don't know why they're specifically elves. That's a little wacky. But basically, it's a ghost, except if it yells at you, you can die. Yeah, all creatures that can hear the Banshee wail make a con save or drop to 0 hit points. This is a challenge rating 4. A level 4 party is supposed to be able to deal with something that can just drop you to 0 hit points. Granted, that's kind of a disproportionately effective ability the more hit points you have, so honestly, throwing a Banshee into the middle of a fight that a level 20 party is busy dealing with something a little bit tougher, you know, more hit points. If the Banshee just manages to hit somebody, like they roll a 1 on the saving throw, or they just don't have that great constitution because they're a wizard or something, that could be quite an obstacle in the middle of a fight. Almost too much of an obstacle, in fact. I don't know. Banshees are weird. 11. Alright, Basilisk. This design is interesting. It's like a spiky lizard snake guy. The main thing that this entire monster does is stare at things and turn them into stone. Fair enough. So most of the things that inflict petrification in D&D have a couple stages that they have to work through. It restrains first, and then on the second turn it actually inflicts petrified. So Basilisk is actually one of the swifter ways to instantly, you know, kill stuff. I mean, you're not actually dead if you're petrified, but turning into stone is not generally recommended by doctors. But I don't know, it's not a very high DC to avoid this, even the restrained aspect of it. And you can also just not look at it. So for a creature whose entire gimmick is, oh no, it can turn you to stone, the likelihood that it turns you to stone is extremely low. But it's a cool looking lizard guy, so 14 probably. 14's a good score. Alright, Behir. I don't know what these are. Apparently they don't like dragons. I'm thinking this is the lightning version of a salamander. It's a long, skinny lizard guy it has lightning breath. I can almost see there being, like, because lightning and air are effectively... Lightning is the damage type of elemental air in D&D, generally speaking. So between Behir, Basilisk, and Salamander, we've almost got a full set of elemental snaky boys. Just need a water snake, which, I mean, I guess there's Leviathan, but... Anyway, this is a monstrosity, not an elemental. So Behirs are basically just big old cave snakes that they don't like dragons, and they will zap you. It's like an electric eel, but on land. It's interesting, I guess. Kind of random, though. There's not a ton of storytelling potential with a Behir. Not that I can think of. Not that you can't use practically any other monster for, so it's fine. It passes. It's an average monster. It's 11, because I like the little snake face. Look at that. Beholders. These are... Is this the first product identity monster in the monster manual, alphabetically? It might be. So product identity is stuff that is explicitly reserved for D&D specifically. The open gaming license lets people make D&D content, or D&D compatible content. The open gaming license doesn't let you use beholders. They're very protective of these big floaty dudes, which, it makes sense. Beholders are kind of the D&D monster. Like, I know the game is Dungeons and Dragons, but dragons are a staple of fantasy. Beholders are just some weird thing that some guy came up with, and he put it in D&D, and now we have beholders. These things are extremely annoying to actually use, but they're great. They have all these eyeball beams, most of which will straight up murder you. Especially this one. And not only do they have all these eyeball lasers, they can use them more often than they actually get a turn because of this legendary action thing. They can even use them more often than that because one of their layer actions opens an eye some random spot in the room and uses an eye beam. So these eye beams they're going off all the time, and they're all really bad. So if you are fighting a beholder, you're not gonna have a good time. I mean, it's gonna be fun, but you're not gonna have a good time. Especially if you're a spellcaster, considering if the beholder is looking at you, you know magic. You can't. It doesn't. You don't. So yeah, regular beholder, it's a perfectly serviceable final boss for most campaigns, as long as you want your bad guy to be a floating head. Because the other aspect of these is that they are extremely malicious. They will just destroy stuff because they feel like it, and they will just mess with people. But they're also super geniuses. They are supposed to be extremely good planners, which is why most of them have dungeons full of traps. They just don't like anyone. So no matter who's in your party, this beholder, this guy, he will fight them. So yeah, regular beholder, probably like an 18. It's a good score. Now, Death Tyrant. That is a this is effectively a lich beholder. The beholder was like, hey, I don't want to, die. So it just died and then stopped being dead. And now it's more powerful. It's got a lot of the same beholdery stuff, but instead of canceling, the concept of a spellcaster while you're fighting it, it's got the negative energy cone, which if you are a spellcaster, it's much easier to, deal with a Death Tyrant, considering you can cast spells, but none of those spells can, heal anyone. And, well, you really want to make sure that people don't die in the negative energy cone, because then you're down an ally, and you have to deal with a zombie, in addition to the Death Tyrant. Now, the Death Tyrant is challenge rating 14, which means that you're probably a high enough level that a zombie doesn't exactly spell doom for the party, but it's still inconvenient. Death Tyrant, I wouldn't call it an improvement on beholders, but it's definitely a thing. 15 probably. They're kind of weird looking. Spectators. This is pretty much a wizard saying, hey, beholders are cool, but what if they worked for me and also didn't try to murder me? And so they made a tiny, terrible beholder that doesn't work properly, and then they use it as whatever wizards use things for. Now there are significantly less eyeball beams here, and only one of them actually hurts people. So there's a little bit less going on with these guys, but they do have spell reflection, which is neat. Generally speaking, it's still kind of just, oh, here's another beholder, except we changed something about it. Not the most compelling basis for a monster, but I like these guys better than I like Death Tyrants, so 17. Okay, Blights. These are evil plants with, I guess, vampire lore. It makes a lot more sense now that I'm looking at this paragraph about vampires making blights. Why there were a ton of blights at the beginning of Curse of Strahd, when I played Curse of Strahd that one time. But yeah, these are just like really angry trees that'll beat you up, but challenge 1/8, challenge 1/2, challenge 1/4. If you have gardening tools in your inventory, you're going to be able to deal with these. These aren't the best monster in the book. These aren't even the best plant in the book. I'm going to give Blights a 6. Alright, Bugbears. These are the worst goblinoid. Goblins are, the actual thing that goblinoids are supposed to be. Goblinoids are based on goblins, and hobgoblins are the direct upgrade to goblins. They're taller, they're smarter, they're more syllables, I don't really get what bugbears bring to the table. They're just kinda, oh, it's a hobgoblin, but angry and fluffy, and for some reason, sneak attack, all of them are rogues. Like, they're a mess design-wise, and Bugbear, it's just a dumb name. Regular Bugbear, I'm gonna say gets a 5. And the Bugbear Chief, honestly, not much of an improvement over a regular Bugbear. I mean, it gains advantage against certain cheese effects, the status spells, and it can attack twice instead of once, but other than that, it has more hit points. Bugbear Chief kinda sucks at chiefing bugbears. Like, I would expect the presence of the Bugbear Chief, by virtue of it being the chief, to make all nearby bugbears better bugbears, but it just kinda doesn't. It's just a bugbear, but slightly harder to stab to death. Why even include this stat block? Bugbear Chief gets whatever one less than the score for Bugbear is. I think 4. Moving on, we've got Aboleth, or land sharks. Not that this looks anything like a shark. I guess it's kind of the same shape, you could argue, but it doesn't have a shark fin. It doesn't have any fins because it doesn't swim because it's not a shark. He just kinda eats you. There's not really anything wrong with bullets, but I don't usually use them because, oh no, a big scary thing tunnels out of the ground and attacks you isn't super interesting most of the time. So yeah, they're fine. They work for what they are, and what they are is a level 5 thing to drop randomly on your players when they're trying to go somewhere. Yeah, 9. Bullywug. The little frog dudes. They're the frog dudes. Are they the toad dudes? Maybe. Yeah, bullywugs are one of the handful of frog people in D&D. They kind of just hang out, you know? I'm giving them a 13. We're onto the C section, the last letter for this video. Cambions. These are half fiends. They're basically a tiefling, but edgier. I mean, there's not really any problems with the way they've set this creature up, but they don't really stand out, you know? Famous D&D monsters. I'm not gonna jump to, oh yeah, Cambion. It doesn't even sound impressive. I'm gonna give them an 8. Carrion Crawler. I think this is product identity. This is one of the monsters that Wizards of the Coast is proud of. It's a giant bug. They crawl around in caves, they eat stuff that's dead, and if they find stuff that's not dead, they dead it so they can eat it. Look at this thing's eyes. That looks very uncomfortable, actually. Yeah, I would not want to be a carrion crawler. I'm gonna give these giant bug dudes probably a 12. Alright, centaurs. Everyone knows what those are. It's a pretty standard centaur, honestly. They speak elf, because why not? It's not groundbreaking, but it serves its purpose. Yeah, 11. Next monster is Chimera. Chimera? Anyway, big old classic weird thing from Greek mythology, where we just stuck a bunch of animals together and had it fight someone. Appropriately, it makes 1 attack per head on its turn. So, you know, even if your players obliterate it in the first round of combat, you still get to show off the entire Chimera, because the lion, the goat, and the dragon all get to act on the same turn. There's a bunch of stuff here that's like, oh yeah, it's Demogorgon. This is how the Forgotten Realms, yada yada yada. We know you stole this from Greek mythology. You don't have to explain why this is in the monster manual. Yeah, generally speaking, decent monster. 14. Ah, these guys. Cho'ul. I don't know how exactly you're supposed to pronounce these, but they're Aboleth related, which is not ideal, but you can just ignore that and use the weird giant crab dude. I actually really like these guys, just based on they're a weird looking crab antelope that will straight up eat you. Yeah, Cho'ul. Fun. I'd say a solid 16. Just look at this thing. Doesn't even have eyes. I can't tell. Literally can't tell. its entire head is just a squid, but it's made out of crab. Okay, anyway. Cloaker. These guys are not as fun as Chules. These guys are just flying manta ray with an angry guy instead of what manta rays normally look like, which is the opposite of an angry guy. Have you ever looked at a manta ray at like an aquarium? Like they just hang out. Manta rays are chill. These guys are not chill. I don't know why cloakers are challenge rating 8 situation. These don't seem like they should be as threatening as they are, considering they're just some weird bat thing that sits on the top of the ceiling and falls on your head. Yeah, these guys put way too much of a fight up for how boring they are, design-wise. I don't even know why half of this stuff is in the stat block. Kind of weird, kind of messy, kind of not a great monster. 7. Alright, Cockatrice. The absolute top 10 worst chickens on the planet. Number 1 is this guy. Maybe number 2. Maybe. But yeah, these things suck. Don't be deceived by this challenge rating 1/2 thing. This is one of the petrification monsters. If this guy bites you, you might just, you know, turn into a rock. Forever. For 24 hours, actually. That's kind of pathetic. Why does this absolute idiot even want to turn people into stone? You can't eat rocks? Is it supposed to be like a dinosaur type thing? I don't know. This guy, I don't like the way he's looking at me. I'm gonna deduct points specifically for just that. Like 6. He's just a derpy bird that turns you into a rock. Alright, Quaddle. These names. Coatl is how I insist on pronouncing that. Is a big, friendly snake guy. He just flies around. There's only supposed to be like a handful of them, but you can ignore that. You can toss these guys around wherever you want. This is neat. You can't read the thoughts of a Coatl. They're like these arbiters of justice or something, and they can't lie, so that's fun. But they're also immune to mind reading. Their challenge rating is 4 if you want to fight this guy, but you don't want to fight this guy. Come on. So yeah, Coatl, pretty cool dude. I'm giving the cool dude a 16. Next up is Crawling Claw, which is just some guy's hand, but it hates you. Yeah, their challenge rating is 0. They are completely useless unless you have like 500 of them. And if you have 500 hands to animate, then what are you doing with your life? An army of Crawling Claws means one of two things. Either the absolute worst necromancer ever is nearby, or the DM wanted you to fight one living hand and then realized you were level 12. It's more creative than just a zombie, I'll give it that. 13. 13 is a fair score. Alright, last but not least, Cyclops. Although, not greatest either. They are a giant, but they only have one eye instead of having 2 eyes, which, you know, doesn't mean anything. Now, they basically made Cyclopses, or Cyclopes, discount hill giants. They were like, okay, it's big, but mostly human-y, which is what hill giants are, but it only has 1 eye, so we're gonna make it worse. And I'm not huge on giant lore in D&D, so that kind of makes these guys unimpressive. I also find it to be an extremely odd decision that the Cyclops, whose most notable myth that I can think of is the Cyclops in the Odyssey. That Cyclops was, like, I think, a son of Poseidon or something. The entire reason that Odysseus has the absolute worst time ever sailing home is because he insulted a Cyclops that was the son of Poseidon, and the Cyclops was like, yo, Dad, this guy sucks. Make him pay for being the worst. They took that monster and made the D&D version non-religious. Why? Yeah, Cyclops is getting like a 4, so I guess it is last and least for this video. Just, you're not the first person to come up with a Cyclops, and you ruined the one interesting thing about them. Good job.